start today by telling you a little story. This is not an original story. I didn't make this up. It's actually been around for a while. And I'm not even really sure where the story came from, but it's been around for a while. So there was this carpenter, and he was a master carpenter, and he built houses. And because he was a master carpenter, he built great houses. Well, he spent almost his whole life working for the same man, and the carpenter realized that the time had come for him to retire. He was really looking forward to retiring. So he goes to his boss and he tells him his plan, that he's finally going to retire. And the boss says to the carpenter, boy, I wish that wasn't the case. You know, you're such a great builder. I really wish we could keep you. And then the boss says to the carpenter, I wonder if you would build just one more house for me before you retire. Well, the carpenter didn't really want to, but he reluctantly agreed. And so he started building this house. Only now his heart really wasn't in it. And so he just didn't build very well. He cut some corners. He got a little careless in his work. He used particle board instead of hardwood. He used plastic pipe instead of copper pipe. He didn't build anywhere near the level he was capable of. But he finished building the house. And the boss came to the house and he thanked the carpenter for his many years of work. And then the boss handed the carpenter an envelope. And inside that envelope was the deed to the house that he just built. The house that he built without putting his heart into it. The house that he did not do his best work on. That house was now his house. And the carpenter was deeply saddened because he had built so carelessly. And now that house was his house. My friends, every one of you is in the process of building a house. Amen. Every day, every moment, every decision of every day, you are building a house. On purpose or by accident, for better or for worse, you are building a house. Amen. By the way that you spend your time, by the words that you speak, by the people that you choose to love, by the people that you choose to ignore, by the thoughts that you allow your mind to dwell on, every moment, every decision, every day, you are building a house. Now, when you build carelessly, when you build selfishly, when you build reluctantly, you are building the future that you're going to have to live in. You are building the house that you are going to have to live in. How's your house going? How's your house going? The Bible is deeply interested in what you are building. At the time the New Testament was written, people built their whole lives around things like status and comfort and wealth and reputation. People built their lives around this. Of course, people still do that today, don't they? Yeah, sure is. People build their whole lives on money and titles and possessions. Right. But there is another way to live. There's another way to build. This is one of the most central ideas in the New Testament, that you can build your whole life around things like generosity and selflessness and forgiveness. You know, the world had never heard anything like this before, but Jesus comes along and suddenly we get introduced to a whole new way of living. Jesus introduces us to a whole new way of building. And this is a way of building that one day we can look back and know we did well. Yeah. We can look back and know that we built well. Amen? Amen. Would you guys like to hear a little bit more about this? Yeah. I want to read a section of scripture to you. This is from Paul's letter to the Corinthian church. This is in chapter 3. Paul says, "For we are God's fellow workers. You are God's field, God's building." Pause right there for a moment. Look at that. You are God's building. You see that? You are God's building. Paul says, "By the grace God has given me, I laid a foundation as an expert builder, and someone else is building on it." Look at this. "But each one should be careful how he builds. For no one can lay any foundation other than the one already laid, which is Jesus Christ. If any man builds on this foundation using gold, silver, costly stones, wood, hay, or straw, his work will be shown for what it is, because the day will bring it to light. It will be revealed with fire, and the fire will test the quality of each man's work. If what he has built survives, he will receive his reward. If it is burned up, he will suffer loss. He himself will be saved, but only as one escaping through the flames. Don't you know that you yourselves are God's temple, and that God's Spirit lives in you? Amen. If anyone destroys God's temple, God will destroy him. For God's temple is sacred, and you are that temple." Amen? Amen. Now, Paul is talking primarily about the church here, but as we all know, the church is people, right? We are the church, and so these verses are talking about us. These verses are about our lives. And Paul said the most amazing thing there. He said, "You are God's building." Amen. Amen. You are. You are God's building. It's like God is house hunting. Like God's looking for a new house to move to. God wants to move from up there down here, and for some strange reason, you are his dream house. Of course, none of you is fit to be God's dream house yet. I mean, right now, you're just a fixer-up. Right? That's what you're. I am too. I'm a fixer-up. We are all under construction right now. And one of the most important things you're going to have to figure out is, what are you going to build your life with? What kind of materials are you going to use to build your life? Well, Paul talked about 6 different building materials in that passage we just read, but those 6 materials can really be divided into 2 categories. The first category was gold and silver and costly stones. Now, Paul doesn't mention these things because of their value. He mentions them because of their strength. You see, these are the building materials that will stand up to the fire. Paul talked about the fire in those verses. And fire in the Bible is almost always a reference to God's judgment. These are the things that will stand up to the fire. These are the things that will stand up on that great day of judgment. The message Paul is saying here is, you build your life with things that are going to stand up on the day of judgment. Amen. Then there's the second category, Paul says. Talks about wood and hay and straw. What happens to those things in the fire? They get burned up. Paul is saying, don't build your life on things that are going to get burned up on the day of judgment. Build your life on the things that will stand on the day of judgment. What am I building my life with? What am I building my life with? You see, building your life isn't really about your income. And it's not about your profession, and it's not about your body shape. Building your life isn't about your resume or your GPA. Building your life isn't about all that external stuff. It's about the internal stuff. Building your life is all about your character. It's about who you are on the inside. So you build your life with your ideas and your dreams and your thoughts and your habits. Those are the things that matter the most about you. Amen. See, our world keeps getting confused about this. Our world keeps telling you to build your life on money and titles and possessions. You know what money and titles and possessions are? They are wood and hay and straw. They're just going to get burned up. On the day of judgment, your money and title possessions are gone, and all that's left is who you are on the inside. You see, who you are on the inside, that is the great building project. Right. Listen, you come to church every week. You can come here and worship God and pray to God. You can write your tithe check, serve in the ministry in the church. You can do all those things. And those things are wonderful. And those things are biblical. But those are not the main thing that God gets out of your life. Listen very carefully. The main thing God gets out of your life is the person you become. The main thing God gets out of your life is the person you become. Well, today's passage poses two questions that every person has to answer. First question is, what will you build your life with? And the second question is, what foundation will you build your life on? Let's start with that first question. What will you build your life with? You know, we all have that version of ourselves that we show to the world. And then there's the person that we really are on the inside. And the person that you really are on the inside, nobody knows that person but you and God. Yeah. Nobody else knows who you really are on the inside, but one day they will. Look what Paul said. His work will be shown for what it is, because the day will bring it to light. Now, when Paul talks about the day here, he's talking about that great day of judgment. Yes. He's talking about the day when everything that was done in the dark is going to come to the light. And that day is coming for you, my friend. You can circle that day on your calendar because it's coming. That day is coming when everything you are and everything you've done is going to be exposed. And you're going to be shown for who you really are on the inside. How's your house going? You know, I'm going to tell you about two different ministers that I've sat under in my early years as a Christian. And these two ministers, they looked very much the same from the outside. They had gone to the same Bible college. They preached the same gospel. They worked in the same church. They both were considered successful in their work. They looked very much the same from the outside. But as you got up close, some striking differences started to emerge. Like the first man, the more you got to know this guy, the more you loved him. He was warm and gentle and kind and humble. And he really loved people. And he treated all people the same, whether it was his own mother or the waitress at the restaurant. He just treated everybody. He just loved everybody. This is the kind of guy that if you preached his funeral, you wouldn't have to make anything up. You wouldn't have to exaggerate, because this man had built his house well. Now the second man, again, he looked very good from the outside. He had a lot of qualities that made for a successful career. But the closer you got to him, the worse his house looked. See, the gospel that he preached and the life that he led, it didn't quite match up. He claimed to serve in the name of God, but it seemed like it was his ego that was in charge a lot of the time. And he would help, he would give, he would serve, but only when it was convenient for him. And he never really made any sacrifices, you understand? He looked really good from a distance, but when you got a closer look, you could see that he had not built his house very well. So two lives that looked very similar from a distance, but when you got up close, you could see the real building materials. One man had built his life with gold and silver and costly stones, and the other man had built with wood and hay and straw. What am I building my life with? What am I building my life with? Not the life that everybody else sees when they look at me, but my real life. My secret life. The life that only God sees. What am I building my life with? You know, you see a lot of this in our world where, like, maybe there's two families that look very much the same from the outside, but secretly, behind closed doors, one family's full of love and joy, and the other family's full of bitterness and coldness. Or maybe two coaches who have a very similar record, but one coaches with fear and intimidation, and the other coaches with love and inspiration. What am I building my life with? Who am I becoming on the inside where it really matters? When everything I am gets exposed, what are people going to learn about me that they don't know now? What am I building my life with? Am I building with gold and silver and precious stones? Am I building my life with the kind of things that will stand up on the day of judgment? Or am I building with wood and hay and straw? Am I building with things that are going to burn up in the day of judgment? What am I building my life with? When Renita and I first married, we were fairly poor. And we couldn't afford to buy real furniture. And so we bought all our furniture at this store called IKEA. Some of you know IKEA. Some of you don't. But at IKEA, you can save a lot of money buying furniture at IKEA, but you got to build it yourself. Like all the furniture just comes in a box, right? You got to build it yourself. I hate doing this. I almost never use the word hate. I hate doing it. Like anybody who knows me knows that I am not good with tools. And they've got those little they got those little diagrams in there that show you how to put it all together. I can't understand those diagrams. I mean, put screw A and board B. I get frustrated and just drive nail them, you know. And then when I'm done, I've got all these parts left over, and whatever I build, a bookshelf, chest of drawers, it doesn't stand up quite straight, you know. Thank God we got to a place where we could buy furniture that was already built. Like when it's time to remodel in our house, when it's time to do a little remodel, thank God we don't have to rely on me to do that build. But when it comes to remodeling the house that is me, when it comes to remodeling this temple that God is building inside of me, that's work that I have to do. That work belongs to me. And I want to tell you right now that I am always remodeling my house. Every single day I am trying to get better. Every day I'm trying to improve this temple where God dwells inside of me. Don't you know that you yourselves are God's temple? And that God's Spirit lives inside of you? How's your remodel going? You got some work to do? You got some remodeling to do? Maybe there's some somebody that you just need to pour some love into. How's your remodel going? Maybe there's somebody out there that just needs a little of your time or a little of your attention. How's your remodel going? Maybe there's some place God is calling you to go. Maybe there's some responsibility that you've been avoiding. How's your remodel going? Is there some part of you that's going to cause you shame when it gets exposed to the light? Is there some sin that you're not dealing with? How is your remodel going? You are God's temple. And I think you've all got some remodeling to do. Amen? You see, the main thing God gets out of your life is the person you become. You've got some remodeling to do. Because God's not very interested in your resume. God doesn't look on the outside. God looks on the inside. What are you building your life with? That's the first question this passage asks us. Then the second question is, what foundation are you building your life on? Paul makes a very mysterious statement here. He says something that's fascinating. He says, the fire will test the quality of each man's work. If what he has built survives, he will receive his reward. If it is burned up, he will suffer loss. He himself will be saved, but only as one escaping through the flame. Fascinating thing to say. And what Paul is saying is, look, even if someone builds their life with the wrong materials, even if you build with a bunch of wood and hay and straw, even if you make a lot of mistakes and get a lot of things wrong, you can still be saved, but you're going to lose so many of the rewards God wants you to experience. If you build your life with the wrong materials, you might still make it to heaven, but so much of the goodness God wanted you to experience, so much of the abundance God wanted you to experience, so much of the joy and peace and prosperity God wanted you to experience, you're going to miss out on all of that if you don't build with the right material. You can still be saved, Paul says. Even if you don't build with the right materials, you can still get to heaven as long as you build on the right foundation. And every one of you has already chosen your foundation. Every one of you has been building your life on a foundation for years. You may not even be aware of the foundation you chose, but every one of you has a foundation that you are building your life on. And your foundation, you can say it's whatever you want to say it is. But the truth is, your foundation is whatever you put your ultimate trust in. Your foundation is whatever you're going to stand on when the whole world starts shaking. Your foundation is whatever you're counting on more than anything else. So your foundation might be money. For a lot of people it is. Your foundation might be your profession. For a lot of people it is. Your foundation might be your family. For a lot of people it is. Your foundation might be your health or your looks or your smarts. For a lot of people it is. Your foundation is whatever you're counting on more than anything else. Paul said, no one can lay any foundation other than the one which is already laid, Jesus Christ. Listen, I can make Jesus the foundation of my life. I can make Jesus my foundation, not my circumstances, not my emotions, not my abilities, not my money, not my possessions, not my profession. I can make Jesus the foundation of my life. I can build my whole life on Jesus. I can trust Jesus. I can depend on Jesus. I can take my direction from Jesus. I can turn my dreams over to Jesus. I can confess my sins to Jesus. I can make Jesus Christ the foundation of my whole life. And I'll tell you this, when you make Jesus the foundation of your life, then no matter what comes your way to make your world start shaking, you will stand strong. Amen. When Jesus is your foundation, then even when your world starts shaking, you will stand strong. Amen. Boy, our church is really being shaken right now. Yes. Like I've never seen it before. We've got serious health issues going on here in the church. We got people who are watching their loved ones go through serious health issues. We got people in our church family who don't know how they're going to pay their bills next month. We are being shaken. My own family is being shaken right now. My beloved son, Mason, is having these seizures. The doctors can't figure out why. And so we are scared in my house right now. We are hurting in my house right now. But in my house, Jesus is the foundation. And so we know that we are going to stand strong even in this trial because Jesus is our foundation. Our world is shaking, but Jesus is our foundation. So we're going to stand strong. And we're going to get through this. And we're going to trust that God will somehow use all of this for His glory. Amen? Jason, would you join me back there? What foundation are you building your life on? I grew up here in Louisville, and I remember as a little kid, we did these tornado warnings all the time, and my grandmother would rush us all down to the basement for the tornado warnings, right? And, you know, you get used to that. You got used to the tornado warnings. No big deal. Then we moved out to California. They don't have tornadoes in California. You know what they have? They have earthquakes. You never get used to that. You know, that's a whole different thing. Because they have earthquakes in California, they build differently there. Like, you guys familiar with the Golden Gate Bridge? The Golden Gate Bridge is in San Francisco. A lot of earthquakes there. In fact, they have tremors every single day. Every day they have earthquakes in San Francisco. So why does that bridge keep standing even when the ground below it keeps shaking? Why does it still stand? Because of its foundation. Because of its foundation. You see, the Golden Gate Bridge is what's called a suspension bridge. The whole bridge is held up by those massive cable systems you see. And those cables are attached to the two towers. And those two towers go 50 feet into the rock foundation below the sea. The foundation is the secret strength of that bridge. The foundation is the reason the bridge keeps standing even when the ground starts shaking. No one can lay any foundation other than the one already laid, which is Jesus Christ. You can make Jesus the foundation of your life. And that foundation is the reason you keep standing even when the world starts shaking. You can trust Jesus. He was a carpenter. He was a master carpenter, and he went into the life-building business, and he's still in it. if you let Him, He will help you build your own. Amen? Amen. We're going to open up the altar to invitation now. I don't know if any part of this message spoke to you, but it sure did speak to me. I spent all week thinking very carefully about what I'm building my life with and the foundation I'm building my life on. And in thinking about those things, it brought me to my knees. Because I want to be better than what I am now. And I know I can only do it with Him. So I've spent a lot of time on my knees this week asking God, help me pay attention to what I'm building with and how carefully I am building. Brought me to my knees. I wonder if it might do the same for you. Take a minute and think about what you're building your life with as Jason plays. And if you need to get on your knees and talk to God, then you just come right here. Amen.